Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Andrew Hockrattle, and I'm going to be spending a little bit of time with you today, learning about how to use Adobe Illustrator with Adobe Express. Now, this is not just the only day that we're doing this. We are going to be working with creative professionals all week, November 7th to 11th, every day at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. If you're watching the replay, hello. If you're watching on demand, hi. I hope the future is bright and glorious. Hopefully you can enjoy these videos and learn a little bit more about how you can use Adobe Express with your favorite Creative Cloud apps. Now, if you're watching replay, great. If you're watching live, yes, this is a live stream. We are here. We are live. If you have questions, hi, I'm right here. I can answer your questions, drop them in the chat. And if you want more live interaction with your favorite creators, you can always subscribe to Adobe Live over on YouTube and get connected with all the creators that you want to learn from. All right, so I want to give you a little overview of the week before we hop in and kind of show you what's coming. So today, we are covering Illustrator. Yes, I'm branding and identity designer, and so I'm going to show you how you can use Illustrator, which I use for branding and identity all the time, with Adobe Express, right? We're going to make it easier for you, but also easier for your clients. So tomorrow, November 8th, we are going to be doing Photoshop in Adobe Express. We'll show you how to add some extra life to your photos and animate your composites. I've seen a preview of this stream, and it is so good. On Wednesday, we'll be covering Premiere Pro and Adobe Express, how to bring those together. We'll be doing some thumbnails, we'll be doing some overlays, and showing you, if you're a videographer, how you can be a designer too, because everybody's a designer, everyone's creative, and we want to bring that creativity to all. On Thursday, we are going to do Lightroom and Adobe Express. We'll show you how to do some mood boards, how to incorporate some really good stylescapes that you can send over to clients, and even create a lookbook with a PDF. And on Friday, with our friend Katrina, whose birthday it is today, happy birthday, Katrina, we will be covering how to do content creation in Adobe Express. I'll be showing you a couple tips and tricks that she'll be covering deeper on Friday as well. So tune in for all of those all week. There's great content coming to you here on Adobe Live. All right, so with that said, you can set your calendar reminders, and you also can remix templates. Now, you're going to want to click on my template right now. You can click on it right now. We're not going to use it right now, but you might as well be ready, right? So let's go ahead and open up that template, and we are going to get started. So let me introduce myself real quick. I'm a branding identity designer. I do a lot of really crazy work, but I also do a lot of brand work that is set in kind of systems. I love creating systems for my clients that work together, right? And when I build a brand, I think about it in pieces most of the time. How do these pieces go together? How do they communicate with each other? And how do they really tell a story? I've gotten to implement those pieces for brands like Southwest Airlines, Logitech, even brands like Red Bull. So I like to think, how can I work in pieces? And I think a lot of branding designers do that, right? That we end up with something like this in Illustrator or in InDesign, wherever we're working. We end up with this crazy brand standards, right? And we're making all these cool pieces, and we've got the logos and the logo marks and all of these different elements that go into a brand, right? All our colors, all that stuff. The great thing about this is we can build it all in Illustrator, right? If you're branding designer, you've done this. You've created logos in Illustrator. And if you want to learn how to create logos in Illustrator, search the Adobe Live YouTube channel. I've got tons of tutorials to help you learn how to create a logo. But today we're going to be showing you how to implement that using Adobe Express and make it easier for you and your clients. So usually when you are done with a branding project, you have something like this. Right? This is pure chaos. We all know this screen that we have made a logo, and we need the logo in all the different orientations. We need just the mark. We need the type. We need the mark and the type. We need the mark and type horizontal, vertical. We need it in all the colors, right? That even though you're just making one thing for a brand, it ends up being a whole bunch of different things. This is great, right? And Illustrator helps us a lot by being able to create artboards. I'll give you a quick little tip. If you have a shape like this and you need to create a perfectly sized artboard around it, you can hit Shift-O. That will give you the artboard tool, and just double click on it and it will make a perfectly sized artboard, right? That one's just for free. That's not about what we're talking today. But once you have all of your elements, you have all these artboards, right? And maybe your workflow, you have to export, and your export ends up looking something like this, right? You have a bunch of folders. You've got EPSs of every version. You've got PNGs of every version. You have all of these different pieces, right? It's crazy. And for me, this is really helpful, right? I'm like, oh, PNGs, I know that those have transparent backgrounds. SVGs, I can use these on websites. But the problem is if you're a branding designer and you're working in Illustrator, the conversion and the kind of conversation stops, right? At a certain point when you hand off files, let's say that I want Susan, who works in R&D, wants to make a social media graphic, right? Susan's going to email me. And I have so many Susans in my life that are clients that I've done branding for that email me for every little thing. What we're going to do today is we're going to show you as a branding designer how you can speed up your workflow and get yourself more time by equipping your clients to use these brand elements. So, all right, here we go. Let's hop in. We are in Adobe Illustrator, and here's the secret to everything you need to know about using Adobe Illustrator with Adobe Express. It's the magic of libraries. That's right. So we are going to use a library here, and all you need to do to start your library is grab one of these elements and just click and drag it over into the library menu. When you drop it, it will actually add to that library. I dropped it in the wrong spot. That's how you know we're live. You can see that it adds it right here. We can double click on this and we can do red logo and we can name it. So you can organize everything right here. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Andrew, I can export for screens and get everything in really quickly and have all the files. That's great. I know that that feels like a faster workflow. This will be a little time intensive getting things in, but once you do it once, you'll never have to do it again. Susan from accounting will never have to do it again. Carol from R&D will never have to do it again. George from research will never have to do it again, right? Once you do it once, it will save you so much time. So drag all of your elements into a library. You can even make folders. I have these very organized here. You can see I have all these brand elements, these little lines. I have all the taglines in here, and I even have some of the badges. We've got our logos, right? All these different versions. Instead of exporting PNGs and JPEGs and all that stuff, toss them in the Creative Cloud library. And the cool thing about this is we are going to be working in Adobe Express today, but this library works in InDesign. It works in Photoshop. It goes everywhere with you, and it syncs seamlessly. So once you have taken all of your elements and built your Creative Cloud library, we're going to take this into Adobe Express. Here is my pro tip. This is another one for free. There are tools in Adobe Express for you to build your brand, to input colors, all that fun stuff. How I like to do it, again, there's no wrong way to design, just different ways. Here's my way that's probably the wrong way, but it's a different way that I think saves me a bunch of time. I make a color palette, right? And I always think of this as like a makeup palette, right? That has all the little dishes. If I need to do like a quick little touch up or something, I've got all of my little dishes here, all of my colors, and I just grab that whole thing and I pull it into my library. And why I'm doing that is because I want to be able to reference this in other places, especially in Adobe Express. So I can just grab that eyedropper tool without having to go in and set colors. Boom, really quickly, I could just grab those colors. All right. So let's keep going. And yes, hello, quick stop. I want to say hi to everybody in chat. Hello to everyone in the live chat. I see you here. We've got Dave Clayton, Joy West, lots of friends tuning in. So hi, everyone in chat. It makes me so happy to see you here and know that you're tuning in from around the world. If you're watching the replay, I love you too. Leave a comment down below. Say hi. All right, so let's go ahead and hop over into Adobe Express. We've built our library here, right? And we've built this brand. We've kind of pulled things away and built the brand. So great question from our live chat that I'll actually address right now. Michael is asking RGB or CMYK. I am working in RGB because I know a lot of these assets are just going to be for social media. Usually if a client is asking me for print assets, I'll be like, okay, cool. Let me like help you out a little bit here. But I think I usually provide them and build a library in RGB just to make it a little bit easier so things don't get too crazy. All right, so let's go ahead and hop over into Adobe Express. And you know what? I'll do you one better. Let's go ahead and click on this Remix Andrews template. So you can click right here. Da, 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 and it's going to open up my template here. And this is the template that we're going to be working off of. So we're going to remix this design, and we are going to be creating something on my screen that could be completely different from your screen. Literally, if your first step right now is to open up Adobe Express, click on this template and delete everything, I'm totally fine with it. Pick whatever you want, do whatever you want, and let's create something together. All right, so I'm going to delete these instructions, create your branding in Illustrator, and then seamlessly use those assets in Adobe Express to create striking social media posts that stay on brand. That's what we're doing. All I need to do is select that and hit delete. Great, so we have our image here, right? I've just set this as our background image. And maybe the brand that you're building is for honey, maybe it's for yoga, right? Maybe it's something else. You can replace this with whatever you want by just clicking on this back picture and then hitting replace. And then you can type in whatever you want. When you select a photo, yoga, it will replace it. And the cool thing about Adobe Express, Adobe Stock is fully integrated in. So all you need to do is click and it will replace it, right? Looks pretty good. So I don't want to do that because I do want to be working with lake stuff. So we have our image in here. Now we want to make this on brand, right? And this is where it gets sketchy sometimes with Susie, who works in the commissary, right? She's going to grab the JPEG. She's going to toss it on here. It's going to have a colored background. There's going to be white. It's going to get messed up. But if we equip her to use Adobe Express and use that library, what's great is she can just come in here and we can share that library with her. We can click on our library and click on view all. And this is going to give us all of the assets in our library. Check out all of these pieces. And the great thing is that this is live updating. If I updated something in Illustrator, it would go into this immediately. So let's go ahead and really quickly create a branded social media image. It's going to be super easy. All we need to do is come in here and let's go ahead and toss on one of our marks right here. Let's do this one. That's gray. All we have to do is click on that asset that is in the library and it will upload right there. We can click and drag that around using the handles and it will scale. The resolution will be just fine for what we're working. We're working on a social media sized image. So that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and drop some of these elements. And again, as I'm building a brand, I'm always thinking about working in elements, right? I'm working in pieces. And these pieces allow me to kind of drag and drop to create branded social media images really quickly. This can be something that if you're working on a brand, it could be photography, it could be vector elements like these, it could be even textures. If you want to overlay some textures, you could put those into a Creative Cloud library and you can share those with your client or with yourself if you're running a personal brand to be able to really give another dimension to your work and keep it on brand, and more importantly, build it super fast. So I'm actually going to pull this one out a little bit because I want to show you something very special that we can do here in Adobe Express. So we have our pieces in. This is looking okay. Like, I'll be honest, this is looking kind of mediocre. We can't read this down here. The color looks a little weird. Like, I want it to be a little more interesting. And so let's make it more interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select the background here and we are going to duplicate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it away from the background. So I'm going to uncheck right here, add to background, and I'm going to duplicate. Boom, right there. All right, so we're going to click on this back one right here, and we're just going to add that back to the background. Now, Adobe Express has a really great piece that you can use to remove backgrounds. And this is why I love using Adobe Illustrator with Adobe Express, because I would have to be jumping around between Illustrator and Photoshop and probably InDesign to do some of this stuff. We can take it all from Illustrator and funnel it down into Adobe Express. So let's go ahead and hit remove background right here. It's going to remove the background from this boat for us. And you think it's going to have a hard time because it's water, but it's not. I'm going to restore just a little bit of this edge right here. There we go. And we can just click on restore and then you just click and drag and look at that. It's painted it back in. So what we're going to do is we are going to use that remove background to layer a little bit. So I'm going to line this up and we are going to layer this boat on top of where that boat already exists, right? Ooh, little secret hacks. And if we were working in Illustrator, it would be easier with the new intertwine feature, right? You could do that, but having things go above and below this boat could get really complicated. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start applying our brand colors to keep this image on brand. And the easiest way to do that, again, you could go in here and you could assign colors, you could build a brand, but the easiest way to do that, again, this is my hack. This is my hack and I'm giving it to you for free. You can go ahead and click right here and boom, you've got all of your swatches. You've got a ton of swatches right there. And someone from chat is asking, Damien is asking, are we supposed to have access to this library? No. So you have access to this template, but the hope would be that you can build your own library. And again, you can do that. Just pull up a brand, or if you're working on your own personal brand, have those elements in Illustrator and then just drag them into that library and slowly build that library over time. So, and I would share this library, but this is like an actual client, and so I don't know if I can just share this with you. All right, so what I want to do is I want to add some kind of branded zazz to our image. And all I need to do is click on the background here, and I'm going to turn on my filters. So the filter, this is the most powerful one that I love to use, and that's the duotone. So the duotone is a really great way to keep things on brand and really kind of pull your social media together. So the duotone, you can assign the shadows or the highlights, and we're going to start with the shadows. I'm going to grab this eyedropper tool. And Andrew, why do we have these colors? Yes, so I can just very quickly dip in and grab that color, right? You can also assign a brand. You can do all kinds of things to set up your brand with colors, with fonts, with logos. And if you want to learn more about that, I'll actually be covering it this Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time over on Adobe Live. So set a reminder for that as well. Tune in all week and then stick around after the last stream and I'll show you how to set up a brand. So what you can do is right here, we are going to set the highlights, and we're going to put that as a brand color as well, that nice blue. We want it a little bit brighter. And now we've transformed this to be on brand, right? We're using the brand colors and everything's looking great. Now, when we built this, we saw that we actually built the library with all of these different colors, right? All the different color variations. Here's the hack. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to have every version of every color, right? I do this so that it's easier for me to work and it's easier for the clients to work. You don't need to. If you want to, all you need to do is click on whatever the logo is that you drag in, and then you're going to turn on that filter, and a duotone, if it's set as the same color, guess what? Becomes a unotone. I made that up, but it's official. So if we set both of the shadows and the highlights to the same color, it is just going to completely change the entire color of that image, right? And here we probably do want this to be full white. And so all I need to do is click and move those things to white. So it looks pretty good. All right, the next thing that I'm going to do is I probably want to put this within a shape, right? And let's say, again, we're talking with Carol from accounting because we love Carol. Carol's saying, I really want the logo to have like an element behind it to separate, right? And we could do this a couple different ways, right? I could send an email and be like, Carol, all you need to do is go into shapes right here, and we can type in maybe something that is a blob. And thank you, someone in live chat is calling it monotone, which is the actual word that I was thinking of. All right, so there are shapes integrated into Adobe Express, and we can just type in blob. And you see a lot of these are like blobby, but being a branding designer, I know blobs. And I need a blob that is blobbier than any of these blobs. And so what we can do very easily and very quickly is we can hop back into Illustrator, and we're just going to create our own professional, creative, created, unique blob. Bob the blog. All right, all we're gonna do is grab the pen tool, and we are just going to click, and I'm just going to make some random points. And this is my favorite way to make blobs. Y'all can steal it, or you can make blobs in a different way if you want. So I just grab random anchor points with the pen tool. From there, I select this, and then I go up to effects. You're going to see me reaching. It's because I'm taking down my sticky notes because I can't see where effects is. There we go. We're going to go to effects. We're going to go to stylize, and I'm going to turn on round corners. So I'm going to pump these round corners up to all the way 99999 and hit OK. Check it out. We got a blob. So this is a pretty good looking blob. I am going to expand it, take down another sticky note and hit expand. And now we've got a blob, right? All I need to do is click and drag. And now that blob is in my Creative Cloud library, and I'm going to name him Bob the Blob. Got it. So we've got Bob in there from Illustrator. Really quickly, there wasn't something specific that I wanted in Express. And so I went ahead, created it myself in Illustrator, and now I can come back, and all I need to do is when I look at these assets, boom, it is already synced. And yes, someone in the live chat is saying use the blob brush. We could have done that. I like to make my blobs custom. They're artisanal blobs. So it's already added to that asset, right? And so this is what's great is if someone, a client that you're working with is emailing and asking for something, they can say, hey, I want X, Y, and Z. And you can say, great, I'll make that in Illustrator and I'll just drop it in the library for you, right? When they're working in Adobe Express, it syncs seamlessly into the library. And now I can drop it over here. Nice little blob. We can change our layers by using this panel and just clicking and dragging that below the logo. And maybe we don't want it to be red. Guess what? We can use that hack for our Uno tone. Gosh, oh, I'm so fired. We can use our Uno tone. We can rotate this if we want as well to get a little bit more funkiness out of it. And we are going to make this one yellow just using this eyedropper tool. And what's cool is we haven't used a lot of color here, but as you use more colors, Adobe Express is actually going to recognize those colors and start to put them into your current palette. Now, we've created this social media image, looks great here in Adobe Express. I'm going to delete our colors. Let's leave our colors for just a second, but I'm going to move them down here. So this piece right here is doing a little bit too much for me. So we're just going to click and drag to move this somewhere else. And what I want to do is I want to add some text, right? And if you have ever worked in Illustrator, you know typography is a huge part of branding. So we could come into Illustrator and we could like make sure that everything is like set out and we could make a social media images. But why would we make a social media image when we could make a social media video? Magic. All right, so what we can do is using all these elements that we have created in Adobe Illustrator, we can bring them into Express, and then I'm going to add in some text. So we're going to click here and hit add text, and I'll just go ahead and say, see you at the lake. See you at the lake. So I'm going to align it. We have all the tools that we would have in Illustrator over here for typography. And what's cool is if you have a brand font that is integrated, Adobe Fonts is integrated here. And so I know that the font that I'm using is Railway. All I need to do is click, and then I'll type it in and it will search for me. And you see Railway is right there. We can set it Railway Heavy, and boom, our branded font is in there. We can grab one of our colors, which again, we probably want to be white here. We could probably pull off that yellow, but let's just go with white for now. And I am going to pull this up. Maybe I want to do this, see you at the lake. That looks good. So we can click and drag and just use these pieces to scale this text up. Now you're saying, Andrew, it's sitting on top of this. Yes, it's sitting on top of this. And this is where it gets really fun. And you can take these elements that you've created in Illustrator and really kind of build a new vibe for what you are creating. So we can use these layers over here. And because we have the cutout of this boat, it's really easy for us to put things behind and in front of this boat, right? So maybe we want this one to go in front of the boat. All you do is click and drag, so it's above that boat right there. So it looks pretty good. We're getting some good dimension here, but I want to have the type go behind as well. So what we do is we can grab the type and just click and drag it behind that boat. Check that out. Look at how well it's masking even that little bar right there, right? So it's masking that out, looking really great. But I want to do even more. I'm going to go ahead and delete my colors right here. I want to go ahead and maybe animate this in. And so I want to animate this text. And what I can do is we can click on animation right here, and then we can look at text animation. Maybe we want it to slide in. Cool. Or we can do typewriter, right? And here's the thing. We could have made this social media image in Adobe Illustrator. No problem. We could have made it super easily in Illustrator. This would have gotten really annoying to like try to mask out, but we could have done it. But you can't do this. You can't do the animation. So we did this animation. That looks fantastic. I'm not mad about it. And maybe I want to put in like some supplemental type, whatever you want to do. You could add more in there. So what I can do is with these layers, it is masking and animating in behind. And now I can download this as an MP4. So now I can start the download and I have a video ready to go as an MP4. Now, I'm going to show you something. Real quick, I'm going to show you two things to finish this out that I want you to practice on your own. So we have downloaded, we're downloading the MP4. Did I click it? That's a good question. Oh, it's saving. It's saving because there's animation. So what's cool is once it saves, you can do all kinds of stuff. We can post it to social media. We can schedule it to social media, but we also can convert it. So what I want to do is I'm going to come over here and just go back to the Adobe Express, and you can go to convert to GIF. Now there are quick actions all over Adobe Express that you can add. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that file that we just created. I put it in my downloads. click and drag it onto the folder right here. And I want medium, I want it square, I can hit download, and it is going to create a GIF for me. I can post this on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever I want it to go. This is especially good for emails. If you're working with branding clients that want email graphics, you can take what you created in Illustrator, bring it into Adobe Express and animate literally in a click. You saw how we did that. It was a click to animate it. And it just makes your value to them as your branding designer, right? You're equipping them and creating a new value for them and taking their brand to a whole nother level. It's becoming animated. It's a whole new thing. All right. So while this processes, I'm going to hop over into another thing that I wanted to show you. And that is using Adobe Express. Hold on. Pause, please. It will export as a GIF. I made too big of a file for the time that we have. That's what happened. But it will export. We'll let that export in the background. Let me show you real quick what we can do. Let me refresh this so see if it comes up here. What we can do is we can actually take this from Adobe Express back into Illustrator. Right? It's like, there we go. It's a reverse. It wasn't showing up because the window was open from when I was practicing. It's live, y'all. All right. So someone's saying, can you export directly as a GIF file? Not currently. You need to export as an MP4 and then just use that converter real quick. So what's great is I'm going to turn the animation off just because I want to right now. And what you can do to get it back into the other side, you can go to PDF, download that PDF, and watch what happens. This is really cool. So we're going to download the PDF. It's preparing that download. And if you are working on something in Express and you need to take it back to Illustrator for any reason, the cool thing is that a PDF, which stands for Portable Document Format, is readable by our friend Adobe Illustrator. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on that file. You can see I have the file over here, and I am going to go ahead and just open that in Adobe Illustrator. And what's funny is I think that I used a font that I uploaded to Adobe Express that I don't have on my system, which is great. You can upload your own files and fonts into, oh, there we go. It's synced. It was an Adobe fonts and it synced right there. So all we need to do is we can come in here and check that out. Everything is now individual pieces again, and we can use it in Adobe Illustrator if we want to come out of Adobe Express. And someone's asking, can we share in Adobe Express? Yes, you can share in Adobe Express. All you need to do is click right here on that share button. So let's look one more time. It's still processing our GIF. I promise it works. We don't have time to show, but it will export. It will convert that. I unfortunately picked the largest file I possibly could. So thanks for joining me. Again, you can go ahead and set reminders on your calendar for everything else that's coming up this week. Tune in every day at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, or you can catch the replay anytime. Make sure you subscribe to Adobe Live. We're live every day, 9 a.m. to about 3 p.m. with great content. And I'll see you for another stream, I'm sure. Bye, everybody. Go send me a DM. Send me a DM and let me know what you learned at hawk.co on all the socials. I'll see you there. Bye.